Well, good morning, students. I'm Nagaraj, Faculty of Commerce. In previous video lesson, we have started standard costing and variance analysis. In previous video lesson, introductory part is going done, and now the same is going to be continued. So, through this video lesson, we are going to learn these concepts: standard cost, the standard costing, and set, standards setting of standards, the various analyses. So that is it is continued from previous video lesson. So we will see where we have to start. So it is completed. It is also completed in previous video lesson. So you can see in previous video lesson, then you can get clear cut idea. Now onwards, we have to start. So you see, setting up standards. So setting up standard cost is set on the basis of management's estimation. Cost is estimated on the basis of technical specification provided by the engineering department or other expert such as production engineer. Generally, while setting standards, consideration is given to historical data, current production plan, and expected conditions of future. For the sake of detailed analysis and the control, standard cost is set for each element of cost, that is material, labor, variable overheads, and the fixed overheads. Apart from these, standards are also set for the sales quantity and the sales value. Standards are set in both quantity and in cost. It is thus measure in quantities, hours, and the value of the factors of production. Standard costs are divided into three main cost components, such as direct material cost, direct employee cost, and the overheads. Standards are set in both physical and monetary terms for each cost components. So we are setting up standard cost. What we are setting? So for material, what is the standard cost? For labor, what is the standard cost? For overheads, what is the standard cost? For each element of the cost, we are setting some standard. Some standards. So while setting standard, previous information, that is historical information, and the current production plan and the expected condition of future. These are the three items are taken into consideration while setting standards. So that's why whatever it is, it may be material standards, it may be labor standards, it may be overhead standards, whatever the standards. But whenever we are setting the standards, the three factors have to be considered while setting the standards. Okay, so what is material? Let us see. So standards are both in physical and monetary terms for each cost component. So what is physical? What is monetary? So physical means you can say quantity. What is monetary? You can say in terms of money. So in both the terms, we can set the standards. So let us see first physical standards. Physical standards refer to expression of standards in units or hours. So in units or hours, you can say in units or hours, that is physical standards. At this stage, standard quantity and standard hours are determined for a particular product or services. So whenever we are setting physical standards, the quantity and hours, the quantity of the products, the hours, how much hours are to be taken while producing the goods. So that's why here in physical standards, the quantity And the standard hours, how much standard hours are to be taken for the production process. So for a particular product or service. So while producing a product, how much quantity is required, how much time is required. So that we have to take into consideration. So standard time, scientifically uh, taken the time, scientifically taken the whatever the process we are doing, that is to be done in scientific manner. So that's why that is to be uh, observed. The purpose of setting standards is to secure economies in scale of production and the setting selling price for quotation purpose. In manufacturing organizations, the task of setting physical standards is assigned to the industrial engineering department, while setting standards consideration is given to the companies. So here, the standards, who set the standards? Engineering department. Industrial engineering department can set the standards. So whatever the products are there, those for those products, engineering department will set the standards. So according to the engineering department standards, only the products will be produced or manufactured. So while setting the standards, the following conditions are to be considered. Company's operating plan. What is the operating plan? So that may be budgets. That according to the budgets. Budgets means here sales budget, production budget, material budget, whatnot. Every budget is considered in this concept. So according to the budget, according to the action plan, financial action plan only, the physical standards are to be set out. So final output to be produced. What is the final output when it is to be produced? Material specification in both quantity and quality provided by the engineering department. A proportion of material to be used in case of multiple inputs. In case of multiple inputs. So how much material is to be consumed in multiple units. That is in case of sometimes we may use more than one raw material. Then what is the proportion to be used for that purpose? So that's why what is the multiple units we have to use, multiple raw material we have to use. That we have to check. Method of production that may be fully automated, semi-automated, or manual. So fully automated means all the machinery power will work. There is no manpower. Only less number of people will be worked for that. To, less number of people will work for automation manufacturing purpose. Semi-automated mission. Semi-automated means here our manpower and the machinery power both will uh, come to the both come together, join together, and work together. And the manual means there is no machinery power, only manpower only will work for production purpose. So that's why what is the method of production, that is also is to be considered by the engineering department. Skill, set of workers, and availability of workers. So here, according to the skill, workers are classified into three categories. One is skilled labor, another one is semi-skilled labor, uh, last one is uh, unskilled labor. So these are the three types of classification we have. So skilled labor, semi-skilled labor, unskilled labor. So skilled labor consisting more qualification. Semi-skilled labor consisting not more than professional qualifications. They may have limited qualifications. And what about unskilled labor? Unskilled labor, minimum qualification, or they may not have any qualification. So that uh, that type of workers will be understood. Which is what is the work, which type of labor is required. So that is a observation is to be taken into consideration. And availability of workers. How much availability workers are available. Sometimes professional skilled labor may be available more. Sometimes semi-skilled labor available more. Sometimes unskilled labor availability is more. So according to the availability of the workers, the plan is to be set out. Standards are to be set out. Working conditions and internal factors. Working conditions and internal factors. What is the working conditions? Where we are working, some machinery, fully automated conditions are there, semi-automated conditions are there, how weather conditions are there. So like that, working conditions are to be observed, and internal factors. Sometimes internal factors also influence the production. So that's why internal factors also observed by the engineering department. And the next one, external factors such as labor law, factories act, government policies, etc. So not only internal factors, external factors also are to be observed by the engineering department. So all the uh, observations, all the factors taken into consideration, then only the engineering department has to set up physical standards. So otherwise, they won't. They go to. Uh, they will be. Uh, they will not will set proper conditions. Okay. So let us see next procedure of setting overheads. Yes. So you see procedure procedure of setting material quantity standards. So what is the procedure is to be followed while setting material standards. The same way, procedure of setting labor time standards. So labor standards also is to be considered here. So let us see first the following steps are followed for setting material standards. That is standardization of products. So what is the standards we have? How much standards we are maintaining? That is to be taken into consideration. That is to be taken into consideration. At this phase, at this phase, at this phase, products to be produced is decided based on production plan, and the customer's order. Generally, following questions are answered at this stage. Following at this stage, some answers to be some questions, raised, so that we have to answer. What does it mean? So we have to question ourselves. So while setting material standards. So what to be produced, what we are going to produce, which type to be produced, which type of uh, mm, products we are going to produce, how much to be produced, how much quantity we are going to produce. So these are the questions that to be answered ourselves while setting the standards on material. Next, you see product study. Product to be produced is analyzed and studied for developments and production. Product study is carried out by the engineering department or product consultants. At this phase, answers to the following questions are satisfied. How can it be produced? How it is to be produced? What are the prerequisites? Which type of material are to be used? How products can be accepted in the market? So next one, preparation of specification list. After the product study, a list of material is prepared. It specifies types of types and quantity of materials to be used, substitute of the materials quantity, and the proportion of materials to be used. Process to be wastage is given. It must be customized to adapt changes in the product. Test runs. Sample or test runs under specified conditions are carried out, and the sample products are tested for the desired quantity, quality, and quantity. Any deviation from the specification is noted down, and the specification list is updated. Okay, so whatever it is, so while setting material standards, you have to follow what is the standardization of the products. What standard products we are going to produce. How much standard we have to maintain. So that's why for that, how much, uh, what are the product we have to go into produced. So what standards we are going to maintain, what message is going to be given by producing our products to the society. So that is to be taken into consideration. And product study, product study. So whatever the products we are producing, that is to be given for development and another purpose, that is production purpose. That study is to be studied by engineering department, and with the satisfaction of engineering department personnel or product consultants, then only it would be uh, fully satisfied and fully uh, controlled products. Okay. Next, preparation of specification list. So, what specifications we require? So that we have to maintain. So, preparatory work is must. So, what preparatory work? How much material is to be maintained? What specifications? What we say? Specifications of the product we have to maintain. What specifications? What is the width? What is the height? What is the quantity? What is the gauge? So, like that, we have to maintain all the specification list. Okay, specification list of the product we have to maintain. For that, we have to consult with the engineering department. Based on that, we have to maintain the specification list. Again, after completing production, we have to test run the product. So whatever we thought, whatever we thought, what we produced, whatever we thought, what we produced, that we have to uh, take into consideration, and we have to take uh, a survey from the public. So then we will fulfill the products. Okay. Next, so this is the standards have to be maintained for material standards. Next, you see uh, labor standards. Whenever we are maintaining labor standards, we have to maintain. Whenever we are following maintaining standards, we have to follow. Right. You see this one. The following are the steps involved in setting labor standards. So here, labor specifications. Labor specifications, yes, type of labor, and the labor time is specified. Labor time specification is based on past records, and it takes into account normal wastage of time. So labor specification is required. So who is the um, labor is required? Which type of labor is required for our production purpose? Maybe skilled labor, maybe semi-skilled labor, maybe unskilled labor. Sometimes the mix of the labor we may require. So that's why, according to the specification only, labor specification only, requirement only, we have to maintain labor specification. That is we don't want to waste our time, because whenever we have more labor, they may not control it. So that's why only required and um, required labor is to be maintained. Okay. Next, to see standardization of methods. What methods are to be followed? The movement of the movement of the labor. The selection of proper machines to use proper sequence and the method of operations. So while producing goods, the manpower has to take movements from one place to another place, and while processing the products, the movements have to be taken into consideration. The movements are also taken are set for standards. So the standardization of methods also is more important. Next, manufacturing layout. A plan of operation for each product listing the operations to be performed is prepaid. That is also manufacturing the first where you have to start. After completing that, where you have to do. What is the next? So process one by one process also is to be studied. Next, time and motion study. So it is most important. Movement. It is conducted for selecting the best way of completing the job or motions to be performed by the workers and the standard time which an average worker will take for each job. This also takes into account the learning efficiency and the learning effect. Okay, the motion study, the movement, the machinery movement and the labor movement also is observed. Next, training and trial. Workers are uh, trained to do work and the time spent at the time of trial run is noted down. So, whoever the labor movements are to be observed. That movements are uh, scientifically okay or not that level. Check. So, whatever the movements are there, that movements are to be noted down. Then the trial run is to be done. So these are the standards while setting standards to the labor, and these are to be uh, factors to be taken into consideration. Okay, next overheads. Whenever we are setting standards to the overheads, we have to follow variable overheads. Time or quantity is estimated based on the specific made by the engineering departments. Variable overheads may either be based on direct material quantity or labor hours. Generally, it is based on labor time worked. A fixed overhead time is based on budgeted production value. So, uh, in total cost, we have three elements. One is materials, another one is labor, and last one is uh, overheads. So, these are the three elements are involved in cost. So, that's why for each element you have to maintain standards. So while maintaining standards, you have to um, take into some factors like this. Okay. Now you see the types of variances. So what is the meaning of variance? Variance means the difference between standard value and actual value. Standard value and the actual value. So the value may be in the view of material, the view of labor, in the view of products, whatever it is. So the variance may be sometimes more than the standard value and less than the standard value. So let us see how we can measure uh, what type of variances we have. Uh, we will see. So variance means difference. Okay. So here the classification is like this: controllable and uncontrollable variances. Controllable variances and uncontrollable variances. Controllable, the name itself indicates you can control the variance. Uncontrollable means we may not uncontrol the variance. So it may be in view of material, in view of labor, in view of overheads. So the purpose of the standard costing reports is to investigate the reasons for significant variances so as to identify the problems and to take corrective action. Variances are broadly of two types, namely controllable and uncontrollable. Controllable variances are those which can be controlled by the departmental heads, whereas uncontrollable variances are those which are beyond their control. Responsibility centers are answerable for all adverse variances, which are controllable and are appreciated for favorable variances. Controllability is a subjective matter and varies from situation to situation. If the uncontrollable variances are of significant nature and are persistent, the standard may need revision. Okay, here controllable and uncontrollable variances. So the variants are classified into two. One is controllable and another one is uncontrollable. What is controllable and what is uncontrollable? Controllable means we can control whatever the difference is there. Whatever the difference is there. Whatever the difference is there, that is to be that can be controlled by the concerned department, concerned labor. So that is controllable variance. And what is uncontrollable? We cannot control beyond control. That may be natural calamities, that may be accidental, that may be wastage. So it cannot be controlled by the departmental heads and the concerned labor and the machinery, whatever it is. So that's why we may see controllable variances and uncontrollable variances. So where we have controllable variances, we can control. So that's why uh, while setting standards, where we can control, that we have to see. Where we cannot control, that also we can see. Okay, this is one type of classification. One type of classification. Next, another one, favorable and adverse variance. Favorable means, what is favorable? Favorable means this is positive. Positive variances. Positive means, let us take uh, rate point of view. Rate point of view. So let us take example. The standard price is fixed for 10 rupees, but actual price, it is below the standard price. It is below the standard price. Then it is positive. It is positive. So that's why usage also. So it is required 100 kgs of material, but we are used 90 kgs of material, but we produced. So it is also positive case. Sometimes we may have adverse cases. Adverse means negative. Negative means more than the standard we may use. So the price is 10 rupees, but we are actually expended 12 rupees. So why? What is the need of standard? We have been set standards on 10 rupees, but we are expended actually we are expended 12 rupees. Need not maintain standards. There is okay. So that's why you see favorable variances are those which are profitable for the company, and adverse variances are those which causes loss to the company. While computing cost variances, favorable variance means actual cost is less than standard cost. On the other hand, adverse variance means actual cost is exceeding standard cost. The situation will be reversed for sales variance. So favorable variance means actual is more than budgeted, and on contrary, adverse variance is where actual is less than budgeted. These are credited and debited in the costing profit and less profit and loss account respectively. A favorable variance in short denoted by capital F. So favorable variances are denoted by F, and adverse variances are denoted by capital A. Capital A. So it may note that signs of favorable and adverse variances may or may not match exactly with the mathematical signs, plus or minus. Okay, favorable and unfavorable. So sometimes according to the situations also, positive may change to negative, negative may change to positive. So that's why according to the situations, according to the need only, we have to see the standards. Sometimes cost, sometimes quantity, sometimes price, sometimes mix, sometimes yield. So like that, we may have various types of variances we have. It may be material, it may be labor, it may be overheads, whatnot. So what is the what element we have? There are three elements. So that's why based on the situation, based on the conditions, we have to see whether the variance is favorable or adverse. Adverse means negative. Favorable means positive. Okay. So this is types of variances. So that let us see the classification. The classification is so that if you see the total cost, in the total cost, so in the total cost, we may classify three items, that is material cost variance, labor cost variance, and the overhead cost variance. So these are the three types of cost variances in total cost, because we are already know in total cost we have three elements. We have three elements, that is material, labor, and overheads. So in each and every aspect we have to analyze. We have to analyze the variances. So that's why we can say these three are the cost variances. So in cost variance we have a material price variance. So it is only based on price. So what is the standard of price? What is the actual price? So the standard price and actual price is compared. Then here material price variance should be less than the standard price. Then it will be favorable. Otherwise, it will be adverse. Next, usage. According to whenever you see as per uh, material usage variance. So material usage variance means the usage of material, the standard usage, standard quantity, how much quantity is fixed. Below the standard quantity, you have to take the actual quantity for the production process. But the quality should be same. Whatever the output we are giving, the quality should be same. So that's why, okay. So that is when below the standard usage, then it will be known as favorable. Otherwise, it will be adverse. So the usage variance again is divided into two parts. That is material mix variance and the material yield variance. Mix variance. Mix variance means sometimes while producing a product, we may use more than one raw material. We may use more products, more inputs we may need. So these inputs, proportion of inputs, we have to take into consideration. So what is the standard? How much proportion of raw material we have to take? But what proportion we have taken actually? What proportion we have taken? So that's why that we have to take into consideration. So if the standard mix is there, below the standard mix, we have taken for the production purpose, then it will be favorable. Here also we have to take revised standard quantity. So okay, next material yield variance and one material yield variance. Yield variance means what is the turnover from the raw material. So let us take example. The quality of the raw material gives us quality of the products. Quality of the raw material will be used, then quality of the product will be produced. If less quality of the raw material is used, less quality of the products, less quantity of the products we may produce. So that's why the yield also is going to be calculated as variance. Let us see labor cost variance, labor rate variance. Rate means wage. How much wage is decided? Standard wage. How much standard wage is fixed for that work? But what actual rate we have been paid? The difference between these two we have to calculate. So below the standard rate is paid. Now it is positive, that is favorable. Otherwise, it will be adverse. Labor efficiency. Efficiency means the quantity, how much quantity is going to be given output. So let us take example, within an hour, 10 products are going to be produced by a labor. That is a standard. But when labor is produced more than 10, then efficiency is more than the standard. If one labor is produced less than 10, so efficiency is less. So like that we have to taken into consideration. And again, efficiency variance is labor mix variance, ideal time variance, labor yield variance. So labor mix variance means here also uh, mm, just now we discussed the labor is classified into three categories. One is skilled labor, semi-skilled labor, unskilled labor. These are the three types of classifications we have. So that's why which type of mix we require, how much quantity of labor, skilled labor, how much quantity of semi-skilled labor, how much quantity of unskilled labor is required, the mix of the labor. So that we calculated. What is the standard? What is the actual? The difference is to be calculated. So the same. Next, ideal time variance. Ideal time variance is adverse variance. What we say? Adverse variance. Adverse variance. Ideal time variance is always adverse variance because it is a why we are saying adverse variance means so the power breaks are there, machinery um, breakdowns are there, so labor problem also there, so time problem also there, so breakdowns, machinery breakdowns, accidents. So like that we may have various factors to do to take as adverse ideal time variance. So, suppose labor also can waste the time, so we, we say this is the variance ideal time. So first labor comes and sometime waste for preparing, and machinery also may take time, and taking refreshment. So like that, labor may waste the time. So that's why ideal time variance is that it is always adverse variance. Next, yield variance. So what is the output? How much quantity produced by labor? That is yield variance. Okay. Next one, overhead cost variance. Overheads are classified into two, that is variable overheads and fixed overheads. So in variable overheads, expenditure or budget variance, efficiency variance. Whereas in fixed overheads, expenditure or budget variance or volume variance. Again, volume variance classified into efficiency variance and capacity variance, calendar variance. So this is classification of variance in three elements. So that's why based on that, the classification is going to be done. All right. So with this, the classification is going to be closed. And next video lesson, we start with problems from material variances. So with this, I'm concluding this video lesson. For this, So with this, thank you. Thank you very much. So in the next video lesson, we are going to start problems from material variances. Okay, thank you. Thank you.